This is the story of the Christmas Eve that should have been about saving my marriage, but turned into a fight for survival. I flew to Los Angeles to see my wife. We'd been living apart for months. She had taken a high-powered job with a major corporation, and I stayed behind in New York. We both told ourselves the distance was temporary, but deep down, I knew things were falling apart. When I arrived at the company's Christmas party, I felt completely out of place. Holly looked successful, confident, and independent. I was proud of her, but I was also stubborn. We argued almost immediately. Before we could work anything out, our entire world changed. A group of armed criminals led by a man named Hans Gruber took over the building. Hans wasn't loud or reckless. That was what made him dangerous. He was calm, intelligent, and always seemed 5 steps ahead of everyone else. While his crew secured the building, Hans acted like he was conducting a business meeting. The employees were rounded up, including Holly and her co-workers. Harry Ellis, one of Holly's co-workers, thought he could talk his way through anything. Even in the middle of a crisis, he treated everything like a negotiation. He couldn't understand that Hans wasn't interested in making friends. Then there was Joseph Takagi, the company president. Takagi stood his ground when Hans demanded information. Even when threatened, he refused to help them. I remember watching and realizing that some people find courage when they're backed into a corner. Meanwhile, I had escaped detection. I was alone on the upper floors, barefoot, carrying a service pistol and trying to figure out how to stop an entire team by myself. I didn't have a grand plan. I just knew I couldn't leave Holly behind. As I moved through the building, I started disrupting Hans's operation. Every small victory mattered. Soon, Hans realized someone was interfering. He didn't know who I was, only that I was causing problems. And that drove him crazy. Outside the building, I finally managed to reach someone on the radio. That someone was Sergeant Al Powell. Al started as a voice on the other end of the line. By the end of the night, he became something more. A friend, a lifeline. Every time things looked hopeless, Al was there reminding me I wasn't completely alone. The authorities arrived, but that created new problems. Deputy Chief Dwayne Robinson immediately assumed he knew everything. Instead of listening, he dismissed warnings and underestimated the situation. While I was risking my life floor by floor, Robinson seemed more interested in protecting his reputation. Hans took advantage of every mistake. That was his gift. He could read people. He knew exactly how to manipulate fear, greed, and ego. One person who fell right into that trap was Ellis. Ellis actually believed he could reason with Hans. He volunteered to act as a middleman. Watching that unfold was painful because I knew Hans wasn't negotiating. He was using people. To Hans, everyone was a tool. Everyone except Holly, because Holly caught his attention. She remained calm under pressure. She protected her co-workers. She refused to break. The stronger she appeared, the more interested Hans became. As the night continued, I kept hitting Hans where it hurt. His plans started falling apart. His team became frustrated. For the first time, cracks began to appear. But every victory came with a price. I was exhausted, injured, and running out of options. The building felt alive. Every hallway hid danger. Every elevator ride felt like a gamble. Every door might be my last. At one point, I found myself talking to Al over the radio about things I'd never admitted to anyone. I told him about my mistakes, about my marriage, about how pride had kept me from being the husband Holly deserved. It wasn't the kind of conversation cops usually have. But when you think you might not survive the night, honesty becomes easier. While all this was happening, Hans remained focused on his true objective. The hostages were never the real goal. The money was. Everything else was just part of the plan. That realization changed everything. Hans wasn't trying to make a statement. He wasn't trying to change the world. He was after a fortune, and he was willing to sacrifice anyone to get it, including his own people if necessary. That's what made him so dangerous. He had no loyalty except to himself. As midnight passed, the situation became more desperate. The authorities attempted larger operations. The criminals fought back. The building became a war zone. Through it all, Holly kept showing incredible strength. She refused to give Hans leverage over me. Even under pressure, she never gave up. And seeing that gave me strength too. Eventually, Hans and I came face to face. For the first time, the game became personal. No more hiding, no more guessing. Just two men trying to outthink each other. Hans believed he understood everyone. He believed people could always be manipulated. But what he never understood was determination. He never understood what happens when someone fights for family. The closer we got to the end, the more desperate things became. The building shook with chaos. Plans collapsed. Alliances failed. People revealed who they truly were. Some became heroes. Others became cowards. And some simply survived. When the final confrontation arrived, everything came down to seconds. Years later, people would talk about the action, the explosions, the spectacle. But that's not what I remember. I remember Holly. I remember Al. I remember the hostages who just wanted to get home. I remember the fear. And I remember realizing that courage isn't about being fearless. It's about acting when you're terrified. When the night finally ended, I walked out of that building a different man. Not because I had won, because I had learned what really mattered. Family. Second chances. The people who stand beside you when everything falls apart. Al was waiting outside. Holly was safe. For the first time in a long time, I felt hope. The city would remember the headlines. The reporters would tell their stories. But this is mine. I came to Los Angeles to save my marriage. I never expected I'd have to save an entire building first.